The stack of ungraded essays sat on my desk like an accusation. 23 ninth graders had written about their dreams for the future, and I couldn't focus on a single word because my own future had just been sold to the highest bidder. Or rather, to the most dangerous man in the city. The classroom smelled of whiteboard markers and teenage desperation. That particular scent of hormones and cheap body spray that clung to every surface. Outside the window, September rain drummed against the glass, matching the frantic rhythm of my heart. My hand trembled as I reached for my coffee, now cold. The ceramic mug chipped at the rim where I'd dropped it last week during a particularly chaotic lesson on Shakespeare. "Miss Miller?" The voice at the door made me jump, sloshing coffee onto a student's essay about becoming a veterinarian. Principal Hartley stood in the doorway, his expression carefully neutral in that way that meant something terrible was about to happen. "There's someone here to see you." My stomach dropped. I knew who it was before I even asked. "I'm in the middle of grading." "I'm afraid this can't wait." His eyes held pity, which somehow made everything worse. "Conference room. Now please." The walk down the hallway felt like a death march. My sensible flat squeaked against the linoleum floor, each step echoing in the empty corridor. School had ended an hour ago. Most teachers already fled to their respective homes, to lives that made sense. I'd stayed late because going home meant facing the reality waiting for me there. The conference room door was closed. Through the small window I could see two figures. One I recognized immediately. My brother Danny, slumped in a chair like a puppet with cut strings. The other man stood with his back to the door, but even his silhouette radiated power. Broad shoulders in what looked like an expensive suit, dark hair perfectly styled, one hand resting casually in his pocket, as though he owned the entire building. He probably did, actually. Men like him owned everything. I pushed the door open. The man turned, and I got my first real look at Roman Castellano. He was beautiful in the way that dangerous things often are. Late 30s, maybe, with the kind of face that belonged in Renaissance paintings. Strong jaw, straight nose, dark eyes that assessed me with disturbing intensity. His suit was charcoal gray, tailored to emphasize a physique that spoke of discipline and violence in equal measure. A thin scar ran along his left cheekbone, the only imperfection in an otherwise flawless presentation. "Miss Miller." His voice was deep, accented with Italian inflections that made my name sound exotic instead of ordinary. "Finally. Your brother has told me so much about you." I didn't look at Danny. Couldn't. If I looked at him, I might actually kill him myself, saving Roman Castellano the trouble. "Mr. Castellano." I kept my voice steady through sheer force of will. "This is highly irregular. If you need to discuss my brother's situation, surely there are more appropriate venues." His smile was slow, predatory. "Your brother owes me $300,000. Money he borrowed to finance his gambling habit. Money he swore on his life he would repay." He moved closer, and I forced myself not to step back. Money he has failed to deliver for the third consecutive deadline. I don't see what that has to do with me. The lie tasted bitter. I knew exactly what it had to do with me. Danny had called me 4 nights ago, crying, begging, explaining that the debt had come due and he had nothing, that they were going to kill him, that I was his only hope. Don't you? Roman stopped just inside my personal space, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something woody and expensive that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Your brother offered a very interesting solution to his debt problem, a trade, if you will." My fingernails bit into my palms. And what trade would that be? "You." The single word hung in the air between us. "In exchange for erasing his debt completely, you will become my wife." The room tilted. I gripped the back of a chair to steady myself. "That's insane. You can't just... People don't do that anymore. This isn't the Middle Ages. In my world, Miss Miller, People do exactly what I tell them to do." His voice remained pleasant, conversational, which somehow made the threat more terrifying. "Your brother made a blood debt. In our tradition, such debts can be repaid in only 2 ways, with money or with blood, since he has no money." He shrugged elegantly. "Blood will suffice, his blood, specifically, unless another arrangement can be made." "Rebecca, please." Danny's voice finally broke through, cracked and desperate. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. But they'll kill me. You know they will. This is the only way." I finally looked at him. My younger brother, the boy I'd raised after our parents died in that car crash when I was 19 and he was 14. The kid I'd worked 2 jobs to put through community college. The man who'd apparently decided that poker and sports betting were more important than the sacrifices I'd made. "How could you?" The question came out as a whisper. He couldn't meet my eyes. I thought I could win it back. I really did. I just needed one more hand, one more. "Stop." I couldn't listen to his excuses. Not now, maybe not ever. Roman watched this exchange with the detached interest of a scientist observing rats in a maze. "Miss Miller, Rebecca, I want to be very clear about what I'm offering. This is not a metaphorical marriage. You will be my wife in every legal and traditional sense. You will live in my home, bear my name, fulfill all the duties that role entails." Heat flooded my cheeks at the implication. "And if I refuse?" "Then your brother dies." He said it so simply, so matter-of-factly. "Tonight, actually. I have men waiting outside his apartment. One phone call from me, and Daniel Miller ceases to exist." "You're a monster." "I'm a businessman," he corrected. "Your brother entered into an agreement voluntarily. He understood the terms. The fact that he chose to gamble money he didn't have is not my concern. What concerns me is the balance of accounts. Your brother has created an imbalance. You can choose to restore that balance, or I will restore it my way." My mind raced through options, searching desperately for a third path. I could go to the police, except Roman Castellano owned half the police force, according to the whispered rumors that circulated through the city. I could run, except they'd just kill Danny anyway, and probably track me down eventually. I could fight, except I was a 28-year-old high school teacher who'd never thrown a punch in her life, facing down a man who controlled an empire built on violence. There was no third path. There had never been a third path. "How do I know you'll keep your word?" I asked quietly. "How do I know that once we're married, you won't just kill him anyway?" "You have my word as a Castellano." His dark eyes held mine. "When a man of my family gives his word, it is iron. I will erase your brother's debt completely. He will walk free, untouched, able to continue his pathetic existence. All I ask in return is you." "Why?" The question burst out before I could stop it. "Why would you want to marry me? You could have anyone. Why some random teacher you've never met?" Something flickered in his expression, too quick to identify. "Let's just say that certain business arrangements require me to have a wife. An American wife, specifically, with no connections to the families. You fit the criteria perfectly." It was a lie. Or at least, not the whole truth. But I was in no position to demand honesty from a man who made his living through deception and violence. "If I agree," my voice cracked, "if I do this, you won't hurt him, ever? Not unless he creates another debt with another family." Roman's smile was thin. "In which case, he'll be their problem, not mine. But his slate with the Castellanos will be clean." I looked at Danny one more time. He was crying now, silent tears streaming down his face, shoulders shaking. The little brother I'd tucked into bed, helped with homework, taught to ride a bike, the man who'd just sold me to the mob to save his own skin. "When?" The word tasted like ash. The ceremony is tomorrow evening. I've already arranged everything. Roman pulled a business card from his pocket and handed it to me. A car will pick you up from your apartment at 4 p.m. Bring nothing. Everything you need will be provided. Tomorrow? I stared at the card. Elegant black lettering on cream cardstock. That's impossible. I can't just... I have students. Responsibilities. Principal Hartley has already been informed that you'll be taking an indefinite leave of absence. Fully paid, of course. I've made a generous donation to the school. He moved toward the door, then paused. One more thing, Rebecca. Don't even think about running. I'll be watching you every moment until that car arrives. And if you attempt to flee, your brother dies slowly. Are we clear? I nodded, unable to form words. Excellent. He opened the door. I'll see you tomorrow, mia futura moglie, my future wife. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with my sobbing brother and the ruins of my life. The next 36 hours passed in a fugue state. I went through the motions, packed a small bag even though he'd said not to, called my landlord to explain I'd be gone indefinitely, left lesson plans for my substitute. My hands moved automatically while my mind screamed in circles, searching for escape routes that didn't exist. True to his word, Roman had me watched. I spotted the black SUV outside my apartment building, saw the same dark-suited man at the coffee shop across from school. They weren't even trying to hide. The message was clear. You belong to us now. At exactly 4 p.m., a car pulled up outside my building. Not the SUV, a sleek black Mercedes with tinted windows. The driver who emerged was older, perhaps 60, with silver hair and kind eyes that seemed incongruous with his obvious profession. Miss Miller. He opened the rear door with old-world courtesy. I'm Marco, Mr. Castellano's driver. He asked me to collect you. I climbed in, my small bag clutched in my lap like a shield. The interior smelled of leather and possibility, and the end of everything I'd known. We drove for 40 minutes, leaving the city proper and heading into the countryside where estates sprawled behind iron gates and manicured hedges. Finally, we turned onto a long driveway, lined with cypress trees, Italian style, leading to a house that could only be called a mansion. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. 3 stories of honey-colored stone, with arched windows and balconies dripping with flowering vines. The kind of house I'd seen in movies but never imagined entering, let alone living in. Marco opened my door. The family is waiting inside, miss. Don't worry, they don't bite. Well, Nonna Rosa might nibble a bit, but that's just her way. Before I could ask what that meant, the massive front doors opened. A woman emerged, late 50s, beautiful in a severe way, dark hair pulled back in an elegant chignon. She wore a dove-gray dress that probably cost more than my car. You must be Rebecca. Her accent was thicker than Roman's, full Italian rather than American-born. I am Regina Castellano, Roman's mother. Welcome to the family. Family. The word felt like a noose tightening. Regina Castellano swept me into the house before I could form a coherent response. The interior was even more overwhelming than the exterior. Marble floors that gleamed like mirrors. A sweeping staircase that belonged in a palace. Artwork that I suspected was original rather than prints. Everything whispered old money and older power. Come, come. We have much to do and very little time. Regina's heels clicked sharply against the marble as she led me deeper into the house. The ceremony is in 3 hours. You need to bathe, dress, meet the family. Roman should have given us more notice. But that boy never thinks about these things. That boy. I almost laughed at the idea of Roman Castellano being anyone's boy. We climbed the staircase to the 2nd floor, down a hallway lined with family photographs. I caught glimpses of Roman at various ages, A serious child in a suit too large for him. A teenager with the same intense eyes. A young man standing beside an older version of himself, who must have been his father. In none of the photos was he smiling. Regina pushed open a door to reveal a bedroom that was larger than my entire apartment. A 4-poster bed dominated the space, draped in ivory silk. French doors opened onto a balcony overlooking gardens that stretched toward a distant tree line. It was beautiful and impersonal, like a luxury hotel room. "This is your room," Regina announced. "Roman's room is next door, connected through there." She gestured to an adjoining door that I hadn't noticed. "For now, you'll sleep separately. Once you're settled, once you're truly married, that will change." Heat flooded my face. "Mrs. Castellano, I need you to understand. This isn't a real marriage. Your son is forcing me into this to save my brother's life. There won't be any. We won't be." She cut me off with a look that could have frozen the sun. "You think I don't know why Roman chose you? You think I don't understand the arrangement?" Her voice softened slightly. "Child, I was married to Antonio Castellano. I know exactly how these things work, but let me tell you something. A marriage becomes real the moment you decide it is. No sooner, no later." Before I could process that, she clapped her hands sharply. "Lucia, bring the dress." A young woman appeared, carrying a garment bag that she laid carefully across the bed. Regina unzipped it with reverent hands, revealing a wedding dress that made my breath catch. It was simple but exquisite. Ivory silk with delicate lace at the sleeves and neckline, fitted at the bodice before flowing into a full skirt. Not the elaborate princess gown I might have imagined, but something elegant, timeless. Something that would have been my choice if I'd actually been planning my own wedding. "How did you—" I couldn't finish the question. "Roman gave me your measurements." Regina's smile was knowing. "He's very thorough, my son. Now into the bath. We have work to do." The next 2 hours passed in a whirlwind of preparation. I was bathed. My hair was styled into an elegant updo with small white roses woven through it. Makeup was applied with expert precision. The dress fit perfectly, hugging my curves before flowing elegantly to the floor. When I finally looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. I looked like a bride. A real bride, not a woman being sold to repay a debt. "Bellissima," Regina breathed. My son chose well, even if his methods were unorthodox. A sharp rap at the door interrupted us. "Regina, stop hogging the girl. I want to meet her before Roman ruins everything." The door burst open before Regina could respond, admitting a tiny, ancient woman who moved with surprising speed. She wore black from head to toe, her white hair pulled into a tight bun, dark eyes sharp as obsidian despite the web of wrinkles surrounding them. "Nonna, you can't just—" Regina started. "I can do whatever I want. I'm 93 years old." The old woman, Nonna Rosa, apparently, circled me like a general inspecting troops. "Turn around. Let me see." I turned slowly, feeling absurdly like livestock at auction. "Good hips. Strong. You'll give my grandson many babies." She poked my hip with one gnarled finger. "When was your last cycle?" "Nonna," Regina's face flushed. "What?" "It's a practical question." Rosa turned to me. "Well?" 2 weeks ago," I stammered, too shocked to lie. "Perfect. You're fertile now. Make sure he does his duty tonight. The Castellano line needs heirs." She patted my cheek with surprising gentleness. "Welcome to the family, child. Try not to die." "Mother, you can't say things like that." Another woman rushed into the room, younger than Regina, maybe 40, with Roman's dark coloring and sharp features. "You're terrifying the poor girl. She should be terrified. She's marrying Roman." Rosa cackled. "But if she survives the first year, she'll be fine. I'm Rosalie, Roman's sister." The newcomer ignored her grandmother and took my hands. Her grip was warm, her smile genuine. "I'm so sorry about all this. My brother has all the romance of a tax audit. But truly, welcome. We need more estrogen in this testosterone factory." Something about her warmth made my carefully constructed composure crack. "I don't want to be here," I whispered. "I don't want any of this." Rosalie's expression softened with understanding. "I know. But you're here now, and running isn't an option, so you might as well make the best of it." She leaned closer. "And between you and me, Roman's not as terrible as he seems. He's actually quite... Time," Regina announced, checking her watch. "The priest is waiting. Rebecca, it's time to become a Castellano." They led me downstairs to a private chapel I hadn't noticed during my first tour of the house. It was small, but beautiful, all white marble and stained glass, with perhaps 30 people gathered in the pews. All of them turned to watch as I entered, their expressions ranging from curious to hostile. And at the altar, standing impossibly tall and dark in a black suit, was Roman. Our eyes met across the length of the chapel. For a moment, something flickered in his gaze. Was it regret? Doubt? Then it was gone, replaced by that familiar cold certainty. Marco appeared at my elbow, offering his arm. "I have the honor of giving you away, Miss Miller." Mr. Castellano thought it appropriate. "Because I had no one else. My parents were dead. My brother had sold me. And I had no close friends who could witness this travesty. I was utterly alone, being given away by a man I'd met 3 hours ago to marry another man I'd met yesterday. The walk down the aisle felt eternal and far too short. With each step, I felt the weight of eyes assessing me, judging me. These people knew what I was. Not a beloved bride, but a debt payment, a business transaction dressed up in silk and lace. Roman watched me approach with an intensity that made my skin prickle. When I finally reached him, he took my hand in his. His grip was warm, steady, and absolutely possessive. The priest began speaking in Italian, the words flowing over me without comprehension. I caught fragments, matrimonio, familia, onore, but the meaning escaped me. Regina translated the important parts in whispered English. The vows, the promises, the binding legal words that would make me Rebecca Castellano. "Do you, Rebecca Ann Miller, take Roman Dante Castellano to be your lawfully wedded husband?" I could say no. I could run. I could fight. But then Danny would die. "I do." The words came out steady, clear, sealing my fate. "Do you, Roman Dante Castellano, take Rebecca Ann Miller to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." His voice was deep, certain, without a shred of doubt. The priest continued in Italian. Roman produced a ring, a simple platinum band that he slid onto my finger with practiced precision. When it was my turn, my hands trembled so badly that Regina had to steady them as I placed a matching band on Roman's finger. "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Roman's hands came up to frame my face with surprising gentleness. His dark eyes held mine for a long moment, giving me time to prepare, to brace myself. Then his lips met mine in a kiss that was chaste, brief, completely appropriate for a church ceremony, and absolutely electric. I felt it through my entire body, a jolt of something that wasn't fear or revulsion, but something far more dangerous. Chemistry, attraction, want. When he pulled back, his eyes had darkened. He felt it too. "Welcome to the family, Mrs. Castellano," he murmured, low enough that only I could hear. "Try not to hate me too much." The reception was held in the mansion's ballroom, a space I hadn't even known existed. Crystal chandeliers, a full bar, tables groaning with Italian food. The guests who'd witnessed the ceremony were joined by dozens more. Men in expensive suits, women dripping with jewelry, all of them moving through the room with the confidence of people who'd never been told no in their lives. Regina kept me close, introducing me to an endless stream of faces and names I'd never remember. Cousins, business associates, family friends. All of them offered congratulations that felt hollow, their eyes assessing me like they'd assessed the dress and the venue and the quality of the wine. "That's Dante Moretti," Rosalie whispered, nodding toward a silver-haired man who dominated one corner of the room. "He runs the docks. Very powerful, very dangerous. Stay away from him." "And her?" I gestured to a striking blonde who was watching Roman with undisguised hunger. "Valentina Russo." She expected to marry Roman herself. Their families had an understanding. Rosalie's smile was sharp. "She's going to hate you on principle. Welcome to the club." As if summoned by our attention, Valentina glided toward us. She wore a red dress that left little to the imagination, her perfectly made-up face arranged in a smile that never reached her eyes. "Rebecca, isn't it?" Her voice dripped with false sweetness. "How quaint. A schoolteacher." Roman always did have unusual taste. "Valentina." Rosalie's voice held warning. "This is neither the time nor the place. I'm just being welcoming." Valentina's gaze raked over me dismissively. "After all, we're practically family now, though I give it 6 months before Roman remembers what he really needs in a wife." Before I could formulate a response, or punch her, which was my first instinct, a strong hand settled on the small of my back. Roman materialized beside me, his presence immediately shifting the dynamic. "Valentina." His voice was cold enough to cause frostbite. "I believe your father is looking for you." She paled slightly. "Roman, I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." He cut her off. "And now you're going to leave my wife alone before I discuss your rudeness with your father. I'm sure he'd be interested to hear how you're creating problems between our families." Valentina fled without another word. I watched her go, then looked up at Roman. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." His hand remained on my back, warm through the silk of my dress. "You're mine now, Rebecca. Mine to protect. Anyone who disrespects you disrespects me. That won't be tolerated. Mine." The word sent a confusing mixture of anger and something else through me. I pulled away slightly. "I'm not a possession. In this world, you are." His voice was matter-of-fact rather than cruel. "The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be. Come. It's time for our first dance." He led me onto the dance floor before I could protest. The band began playing something slow in Italian, and Roman pulled me into his arms with practiced ease. His hand splayed across my lower back, holding me closer than was strictly proper, while his other hand engulfed mine. "You're trembling," he observed as we began to move. "I'm terrified," I admitted. "Of you. Of this. Of everything." "Good." His thumb traced circles on my lower back through the dress. "Fear keeps you alert. But Rebecca, understand this. I won't hurt you. Whatever you think of me, whatever you believe about my methods, I keep my word. You're my wife now. That means something to me, even if it doesn't to you yet." I looked up at him, trying to read the truth in those dark eyes. Why did you really choose me? And don't give me that business arrangement nonsense. There had to be dozens of women who would have fit your criteria. His jaw tightened. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, "Because when I saw your photograph, when I read the file my men compiled about you, the teacher who works 2 jobs to support her worthless brother, who volunteers at the community center on weekends, who has never even gotten a parking ticket, I knew you'd never survive in this world without protection. And for some reason I can't explain, I wanted to be the one to protect you. The honesty in his voice shocked me into silence. "Don't mistake this for sentiment," he continued. "I'm still the monster you think I am. I've done things that would make you sick. I'll continue to do them because that's what my world requires. But with you, Rebecca, I can be something else. Someone else. Does that make sense?" "No," I whispered. "None of this makes sense." He smiled, a real smile that transformed his face. "Good. Then we're starting from the same place." The song ended. Roman released me slowly, his hands lingering for just a moment longer than necessary. Then Nonna Rosa was there, inserting herself between us with surprising agility. "My turn to dance with the groom," she cackled. "You've monopolized him enough, child. Go, eat something. You're too thin. How will you carry babies if you're nothing but bones?" I escaped gratefully, making my way toward the buffet table. But before I could reach it, my phone buzzed in the small clutch bag Regina had provided. I pulled it out, expecting nothing. Who would be texting me during my own wedding reception? The message was from an unknown number. "Welcome to the family, Mrs. Castellano. Such a shame that Roman's wives have a tendency to die young. Sleep well." My blood turned to ice. I stared at the message, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Someone had my number. Someone was threatening me. On my wedding day. "Rebecca?" Rosalie appeared at my elbow, her smile fading when she saw my expression. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I showed her the message. Her face went pale, then hardened into something that reminded me uncomfortably of her brother. "Stay here. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone." She grabbed my arm with surprising strength. "I need to get Roman. Now." She disappeared into the crowd before I could protest. I stood frozen by the buffet table, very aware of the dozens of people surrounding me. Any one of them could be the sender. Any one of them could want me dead. Roman materialized beside me within seconds, Rosalie behind him. He took my phone without asking, read the message, and his entire demeanor changed. The charming groom vanished, replaced by something cold and lethal. "Marco!" His voice carried across the ballroom despite not being raised. The older driver appeared instantly, locked down the venue. "No one leaves until I give permission. Tell Dante to start checking everyone's phones. I want to know who sent this." "Roman, you can't," I started. "I can, and I will." He pocketed my phone and gripped my elbow, steering me toward a side door. "Rosalie, tell Mama we're retiring early. Wedding night and all that." "But the reception," I protested as he propelled me through the door and up a back staircase, "is over." He didn't slow down until we reached the second floor, pushing me into what I quickly realized was his bedroom, much larger than mine, decorated in shades of charcoal and cream, dominated by a massive bed that I tried very hard not to look at. He released me and began pacing, pulling out his own phone. "Nico, it's me. I need you here, now. Someone's threatening my wife." A pause. "Yes, my wife. We just got married. I'll explain later. Just get here." He ended the call and turned to me. His dark eyes scanned me from head to toe, not with desire, but with the clinical assessment of someone checking for damage. "Are you hurt?" "No, I'm just..." My voice cracked. "Someone wants to kill me. On my wedding day. This is insane. Welcome to my world." His tone was grim. He moved to a wall panel I hadn't noticed, pressed something, and a hidden door swung open to reveal an arsenal that made my stomach drop. Guns of various sizes, knives, what looked like body armor. He selected a sleek handgun and checked it with practiced efficiency. "You keep weapons behind a secret panel in your bedroom?" "I keep weapons in every room of this house." He tucked the gun into a shoulder holster I hadn't realized he was wearing under his suit jacket. "You'll learn where they all are. First rule of being a Castellano wife, always know where the nearest weapon is." I don't want to learn how to. You don't have a choice anymore. He crossed to me, gripping my shoulders. Rebecca, listen to me. Someone in that ballroom just threatened to kill you. That means someone in my organization has turned traitor, or one of the families is making a move. Either way, you're in danger. Real danger. Not the hypothetical danger of marrying a mobster, but immediate, lethal danger. The reality of it crashed over me like a wave. This wasn't just an arranged marriage to a dangerous man. I'd been painted with a target the moment I became his wife. I want to go home, I whispered. I want my apartment, and my students, and my normal life where people don't threaten to murder me at weddings. Something in his expression softened fractionally. I know, but that life is gone now. The only way forward is through. His hands moved from my shoulders to frame my face, the gesture almost tender. I will keep you safe, Rebecca. Whatever it takes. Whoever sent that message will be found, and they will suffer for threatening what's mine. I'm not. Yes, you are. His thumbs traced my cheekbones. You became mine the moment you said I do. That means you have my protection, my resources, my family. But it also means you have my enemies, and I'm sorry for that. Truly. Before I could respond, a sharp knock interrupted us. Roman released me immediately, his hand going to the gun. Who? It's Mama, Regina's voice came through the door. Let me in. He opened it, and his mother swept in, followed by Nonna Rosa and Rosalie. All three women looked grimmer than I'd seen them. We questioned everyone, Regina said without preamble. No one admits to sending the message, but Dante Moretti's daughter, Isabella, is missing. She left the reception 15 minutes ago, claiming she felt ill. Isabella. Roman's voice went flat. She was always loyal to Valentina. They're cousins. You think Valentina is behind this? I asked. Because I married you instead of her? Valentina is spiteful and vindictive, but she's not stupid enough to directly threaten a Castellano wife. Rosalie shook her head. There's something else going on here. Nonna Rosa had been studying me with those sharp, dark eyes. Now she moved forward, taking my hands in her gnarled ones. Tell me, child, has your brother contacted you since the wedding? The question caught me off guard. Danny? No. Why would... Then it hit me like a fist to the stomach. You think he's involved? Your brother is a gambling addict, Rosa said bluntly. Such men are easily manipulated. A word in the right ear, a promise of debt forgiveness from someone else, and suddenly he's telling secrets he shouldn't know. But he doesn't know anything, I protested. He barely knows where I am. He knows you married Roman Castellano. Regina's voice was gentle but firm. That alone is valuable information to the right people. When did you last speak with him? I tried to remember. Yesterday morning. He called to apologize again. He was crying, saying he'd ruined my life. I swallowed hard. I hung up on him. We need to find him. Roman was already texting. If someone got to him, if they're using him. My phone, still in Roman's pocket, buzzed. He pulled it out, and his face went absolutely expressionless. That's when I knew it was bad. He showed me the screen. Another message from the unknown number, but this time there was a photo attached. It was Danny, tied to a chair in what looked like an abandoned warehouse, blood trickling from his nose, his eyes wide with terror. And the message, come alone to the address below, or your brother dies. You have 2 hours. No. Roman's voice was absolute. You're not going anywhere. He's my brother. I grabbed for the phone, but Roman held it out of reach. They'll kill him. If you go, they'll kill you both. He pocketed the phone again. This is a trap, Rebecca. Obviously. They grab your brother, threaten him, lure you out, and eliminate both loose ends. It's standard operating procedure. I don't care. I can't just let him die. He's already dead. The cold certainty in Rose's voice made us all turn. She was staring at the photo on a tablet that Rosalie had pulled up. Look at the angle of the photo. Look at the shadows. This was taken hours ago, probably before the wedding even started. They've been planning this. Regina leaned over to look. Her face paled. She's right. That's the old Moretti warehouse on the docks, the one that was condemned last year. She met Roman's eyes. Dante Moretti. Roman's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of death. He's making a move, using my wife as the excuse. I don't understand. I looked between them desperately. Who is Dante Moretti? What does he want? Power. Roman moved to his hidden arsenal again, this time selecting multiple weapons. Dante has always believed he should lead the families instead of me. He's older, more traditional. But my father chose me as his successor, and the other families backed that choice. Dante's been waiting for an opportunity to challenge me, and I just handed him one by marrying an outsider. An outsider whose brother is now his hostage, Rosalie said quietly. He kills Danny, makes it look like you abandoned him, paints you as weak and sentimental. The other families start questioning your leadership. Things spiral. That's not going to happen. Roman's voice was steel. Because I'm not leaving my brother-in-law to die, and I'm not letting anyone question my authority. We're going to get him back. I stared at him. You're going to save Danny? After he sold me to you to pay his debt? He's family now. Roman checked another gun. Whether I like it or not. When you married me, your blood became my blood. That includes your idiot brother. Besides, his smile was sharp and cold. I need him alive to prove a point to Dante. 30 minutes later, I found myself in body armor that Regina had produced from somewhere, sitting in an SUV with Roman, Marco, and 4 other men whose names I hadn't caught. All of them were armed to the teeth. All of them looked like they'd done this before. Stay in the car, Roman instructed for the 3rd time. No matter what happens, no matter what you see, you stay in this vehicle with Marco. Understood? If something happens to you, nothing will happen to me. His confidence was absolute. I've been handling situations like this since I was 16. Dante is making a statement, but he won't actually fight. He can't afford to. He just wants me to back down, to show weakness. When I don't, when I walk out of there with your brother, he'll retreat and wait for another opportunity. And if you're wrong? He leaned close, his lips nearly brushing my ear. Then you'll be a very wealthy widow, but try not to remarry too quickly. It would hurt my feelings. Then he was gone, moving with his men toward the dark shape of the warehouse. I watched them disappear into the shadows, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. Marco kept the engine running, his eyes constantly scanning the surroundings. Mr. Castellano knows what he's doing, Mrs. Castellano. He's never lost a confrontation. There's always a first time. Not tonight. We waited in tense silence. 5 minutes. 10. 15. I kept expecting to hear gunshots, screams, something. But there was only the distant sound of water lapping against the docks and the occasional car passing on the street behind us. Then figures emerged from the warehouse. Roman, supporting a limping but alive Danny. The other men flanking them, weapons still drawn but not firing. Marco moved the SUV forward, pulling up just as they reached it. The door flew open and Danny was pushed inside, landing half on top of me. He reeked of fear and blood and urine. "Drive," Roman commanded, sliding in beside us. "Now." Marco didn't need to be told twice. We were moving before all the doors were even closed. I grabbed Danny's face, checking his injuries. The blood from his nose had dried, and there were bruises forming along his jaw, but he seemed mostly intact. "Are you okay? Did they—" "I'm sorry." He was crying again, his whole body shaking. "I'm so sorry, Becca. They grabbed me right after the wedding, said they'd let me go if I told them about you. I didn't mean to." "Shut up, Daniel." Roman's voice cut through his babbling. "Your sister just risked her life for you. The least you can do is stop sniveling." Danny flinched, curling into himself. I glared at Roman. He's terrified. He should be. Roman's expression was carved from ice. "He nearly got you killed tonight. If Dante had been willing to actually fight instead of just posture, we'd all be dead right now. Your brother is a liability, Rebecca. A massive, stupid liability. He's my brother. He's your weakness." Roman leaned forward. "And in my world, weaknesses get exploited. Tonight proved that. Daniel Miller cannot be trusted. He cannot be left unsupervised. And he certainly cannot remain in the city where he can be grabbed and used against you again." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying he's going into rehab, effective immediately." Roman's tone brooked no argument. "There's a facility in Montana that specializes in gambling addiction. Very private, very secure. He'll spend the next 6 months there getting clean while I make it very clear to every family in the city that touching him again means war." "Well, you can't just—" "I can, and I am." He looked at Danny, who was still trembling against my shoulder. "You have 2 choices, Daniel. Montana, or I cut you loose entirely and let Dante Moretti finish what he started. Your decision." "Montana," Danny whispered. "Please, I'll go to Montana." I wanted to argue, to fight, to tell Roman he couldn't just ship my brother across the country. But the truth was, Danny had almost gotten us all killed. He'd been used as a weapon against me, and he'd let it happen. Maybe Montana wasn't such a bad idea. We drove the rest of the way in silence. When we finally reached the mansion, Danny was immediately taken to a guest room under guard. Roman assured me he'd be transported to Montana in the morning, safely, with full medical attention. Then we were alone, back in his bedroom where the night had started, though it felt like years had passed since then. "You saved him," I said quietly. "You could have left him there, used it as an excuse to cut him loose. But you saved him. I told you." Roman removed his jacket, revealing the shoulder holster and gun. "He's family now. I protect my family." "Even when it's stupid? Even when it puts you at risk?" "Especially then." He began removing weapons from various concealed locations on his body. The gun from the ankle holster, a knife from his belt, another small pistol from the small of his back. "That's what family means in my world, Rebecca. Loyalty even when it's hard. Protection even when it's costly. Blood above everything." I watched him methodically disarm himself, this dangerous man who'd just staged a rescue for a brother-in-law he barely knew. "I don't understand you." "Good." He set the last weapon aside and turned to face me. "If you understood me, you wouldn't survive this world. Mystery keeps you alert. Fear keeps you careful. Both will keep you alive." He moved closer, and I found myself backing up until I hit the wall. He didn't touch me, but his presence was overwhelming, his body close enough that I could feel his heat. "Today you became my wife," he said softly. "You wore my ring, took my name, became part of my family, and today someone threatened to kill you because of it. This is your life now, Rebecca. Danger and family and impossible choices. Can you handle that?" "I don't know," I admitted. "That's the first honest thing you've said to me." His hand came up, cupping my cheek with surprising gentleness. "We'll figure it out together. But understand this. You're mine now. Mine to protect, mine to cherish, mine to keep safe. And I'm yours. Your shield, your weapon, your absolute protection. That's our vow, the real one. Can you accept that?" I looked into those dark eyes and saw something I hadn't expected. Not just desire or possession, but genuine concern. He actually cared whether I lived or died, whether I was happy or miserable. "I can try," I whispered. "That's all I ask." He pressed his forehead to mine. "Now go to your room and rest. We both need sleep. Tomorrow the real work begins, teaching you how to survive being a Castellano." I wanted to stay, wanted to ask 1,000 questions, wanted to understand this complicated, dangerous man I'd married, but exhaustion was pulling at me like a riptide. I went to my room, changed out of the wedding dress, lay in that enormous bed staring at the ceiling, and wondered what the hell I'd gotten myself into. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows, and the disorienting realization that yesterday I'd gotten married to a man who terrified and confused me in equal measure. My phone, returned to me at some point during the night, showed 6:47 a.m. and a text from Roman. "Breakfast at 8. Don't be late. Wear something comfortable. Training starts today." Training. As if I were being prepared for battle rather than learning to be someone's wife. I showered in the palatial bathroom, then explored the walk-in closet that had been mysteriously filled with clothes overnight. Everything was my size, my style, simple but well-made pieces in neutrals and soft colors. Someone had been paying very close attention. I selected jeans and a soft gray sweater, then made my way downstairs following the scent of coffee and something baking. The kitchen was enormous, all marble counters and professional-grade appliances, dominated by a massive table where the entire Castellano family was apparently gathering for breakfast. Regina presided at one end, reading a newspaper in Italian. Nonna Rosa was arguing with someone on her phone in rapid-fire Italian that sounded like creative cursing. Rosalie sat curled in a chair with her own coffee, still in pajamas, looking more human than she had at the wedding. And Roman stood at the stove, actually cooking. He'd rolled up the sleeves of his white dress shirt, and I was confronted with the disconcerting sight of a Mafia Boss flipping what appeared to be pancakes with surprising competence. He glanced up as I entered, a slight smile playing at his lips. "Good morning, wife. Coffee? Please." I slid into the empty chair next to Rosalie, who grinned at me. "He always cooks on Sundays," she stage whispered. "Some weird tradition from when our father was alive. Roman's actually the best cook in the family, though Nonna will kill you if you say that out loud." "I heard that." Rosa ended her call and pointed a gnarled finger at Rosalie. "My carbonara is legendary. Your brother's pancakes are adequate at best." "They're American pancakes, Nonna. You hate anything American." "Not true. I loved your father." Regina looked up from her newspaper with a fond smile. God rest his soul. He made excellent American hamburgers. The casual domesticity of it all was jarring. These people who'd been planning violence last night were now arguing about cooking and drinking coffee like a normal family. Roman set a plate in front of me, perfect golden pancakes with fresh berries and real maple syrup. "Eat." He settled into the chair across from me with his own plate. "You barely touched anything at the reception yesterday, and you'll need your energy." "For what exactly?" "Your education." He cut into his pancakes with precision. "Today, you learn about the family business, the other families, who you can trust, and who will try to kill you. Tomorrow, we start weapons training. By the end of the week, you'll know how to shoot, how to spot a tail, and how to escape from a locked car trunk." I stared at him. "You're joking. Never about survival." His dark eyes were serious. "Last night proved that being my wife makes you a target. I won't lose you because you're unprepared." "Roman, she just got here." Rosalie's voice held gentle reproach. "Maybe ease her into the murder and mayhem?" "There's no easing into this world. She's either prepared or she's dead." He turned back to me. "Your brother left for Montana an hour ago, by the way. He'll be under guard and in treatment. No one will get to him there." Relief and resentment warred in my chest. "You could have let me say goodbye." "He tried to use you as a human shield when we got him out of that warehouse." Roman's voice went flat. "Quite literally pushed you toward Dante's men while trying to run." Did he mention that part during his tearful apology? The pancakes turned to ash in my mouth. He what? Your brother is a coward in addition to being an addict. Regina's tone was matter-of-fact rather than cruel. Roman made the right choice sending him away. He's better off in treatment, and you're safer with him gone. I wanted to defend Danny, to make excuses, but the words wouldn't come. My little brother, who I'd sacrificed everything for, had tried to save himself at my expense. Again. Nonna Rosa reached across the table and patted my hand. Family is complicated, child. We love them, but love doesn't make them less stupid. Eat your pancakes. Moping on an empty stomach helps no one. The rest of breakfast passed with surprising ease. The Castellano family had a rhythm, a comfortable dynamic of affectionate bickering and shared history. Rosalie told embarrassing stories about Roman as a child. Apparently, he'd once locked himself in a safe, trying to prove he could escape like Houdini. Regina shared updates about various relatives I didn't know. Rosa made increasingly inappropriate comments about when she'd be getting great-grandchildren, and Roman watched me throughout it all, his expression unreadable. After breakfast, he led me to what he called the study, a wood-paneled room lined with books and dominated by a massive desk. He opened a leather folder and spread photographs across the surface. These are the 5 families that control the city, he began. Castellano, Moretti, Russo, De Luca, and Vitale. We maintain a balance of power through marriage alliances, business partnerships, and mutual assured destruction. Anyone who breaks the peace answers to everyone else. He pointed to each photo in turn, giving me names, relationships, weaknesses. Dante Moretti, who'd orchestrated Danny's kidnapping. Antonio Russo, whose daughter Valentina hated me. Carlo De Luca, who was apparently dying and whose sons were already fighting over succession. Marco Vitale, the youngest Don, who'd only taken over after his father's assassination 3 years ago. Vitale is the wild card, Roman explained. He's ruthless but unpredictable. He might help us or hinder us depending on which benefits him more. Never trust him. Never turn your back on him. But always be polite. This is insane. I stared at the photos. You're giving me a crash course in organized crime like it's a college lecture. It is a lecture, one that might save your life. He pulled out another folder, this one filled with property deeds and business documents. These are our legitimate holdings: restaurants, construction, import-export. You'll need to understand them because you're about to become very visible in certain circles. What do you mean? He leaned against the desk, crossing his arms. The wives of the Dons have their own social structure. Charity events, fundraisers, ladies' luncheons, all carefully orchestrated opportunities to gather intelligence and shore up alliances. Regina will introduce you, but you need to understand the dynamics before you walk into that viper's nest. I'm a high school teacher, Roman. I don't know how to play political games with mob wives. You're a Castellano now. You'll learn. His voice softened slightly. Rebecca, I know this is overwhelming. I know you didn't choose any of it, but you're here now, and the only way to survive is to adapt. Can you do that? I looked at him. This man who'd bought me to save my worthless brother, who'd saved that same brother despite having every reason not to, who cooked pancakes on Sunday mornings and maintained an arsenal in his bedroom. He was a walking contradiction, and I had no idea how to navigate him. I'll try, I said finally. That's all I ask. He checked his watch. We have an hour before weapons training. Use it to rest or explore the house. Stay away from the East Wing. That's where I conduct business. Everything else is yours. I spent the next hour wandering the mansion like a ghost, opening doors to reveal rooms more beautiful and impersonal than the last. A library with first editions that probably cost more than my yearly salary. A music room with a grand piano. A home theater. A gym that looked like it belonged in a professional training facility. Finally, I found myself in what was clearly Regina's personal sitting room, smaller and more lived in than the formal spaces. She looked up from her embroidery as I entered. "Come in, child. Sit." She patted the sofa beside her. "You look like you need to talk." I sank down, suddenly exhausted despite the early hour. "I don't know how to do this. Be his wife. Navigate this world. I'm just a teacher." "You were just a teacher." Regina's correction was gentle but firm. "Now you're a Castellano. That requires something different." "What if I can't be what he needs?" "Roman doesn't need a perfect mob wife. He needs someone real, someone who challenges him, someone who isn't afraid to see him as a man rather than just a monster." She set her embroidery aside. "Do you know why he chose you? Really?" "He said it was business. It was survival." Her dark eyes held mine. "My son is brilliant and ruthless and completely isolated. Everyone around him wants something: power, money, protection, access. But you didn't even know who he was. You looked at him and saw a man who could help you, not a resource to exploit. That's intoxicating to someone who's been used their entire life." "He's been using me," I pointed out. "Married me to save his business interests." "Did he?" She smiled. "Or did he marry you because he wanted you, and then created a business justification so he wouldn't have to admit to sentiment?" Before I could process that, Rosalie burst into the room. "Rebecca, Roman's looking for you. Time for target practice." The shooting range was in the basement, soundproofed and professionally equipped. Roman handed me protective eyewear and ear protection, then placed a handgun in my palm. "This is a Glock 19, he explained, standing behind me, his body bracketing mine as he adjusted my grip. 9mm 15-round magazine. Simple, reliable, and small enough for you to carry comfortably. This is your weapon now. You'll learn to clean it, load it, and fire it until it becomes an extension of your hand." His breath was warm against my ear as he guided my arms up, aiming at the target downrange. His hands covered mine, steady and sure. "Breathe," he murmured. "Don't anticipate the recoil. Squeeze the trigger, don't pull. And Rebecca?" His lips brushed my ear. "Remember, this isn't just target practice. This is learning to defend yourself when I'm not there to protect you." I pulled the trigger. The gun kicked in my hands, the sound explosive even through the ear protection. The bullet went wide, missing the target completely. Again. He adjusted my stance. "You're tensing. Relax your shoulders." We stayed there for an hour, Roman patiently correcting my form, praising small improvements, never once making me feel inadequate. By the end, I was actually hitting the target, if not the center. "Good." He removed my ear protection, his fingers lingering on my neck. "We'll practice every day until this becomes muscle memory. Next week we'll work on drawing from a holster, shooting while moving, all the practical applications." "This is my life now," I said, not quite a question. Weapons training and political maneuvering and always looking over my shoulder. "Yes." He turned me to face him, his hands on my shoulders. "But it's not all darkness, Rebecca. There's also family dinners and inside jokes and quiet moments. There's safety in knowing you're protected. There's power in being a Castellano. It's a trade. Your freedom for security. Your independence for belonging. What if I want both?" His smile was sad. "Then you married the wrong man." That night I lay in my bed, still separate from Roman's, and thought about everything I'd learned. The families, the politics, the weapons. The way Roman's hands had felt guiding mine on the gun, steady and sure. The way his family had welcomed me like I'd always belonged there. I'd expected hell when I married Roman Castellano, expected cruelty and isolation and misery. Instead, I'd found something far more dangerous. The possibility that I might actually want to stay, My phone buzzed. A text from Roman. "Sleep well, wife. Tomorrow we tackle knives." Despite everything, I smiled. 3 weeks into my marriage, I discovered two things simultaneously. I was pregnant, and someone in the Castellano family was trying to kill me. The pregnancy I discovered in the bathroom of a luxury boutique where Regina and Rosalie had dragged me for what they called proper wardrobe expansion. I'd been feeling off for days, nauseous in the mornings, exhausted by afternoon, emotional over nothing. I'd blamed stress, but when Rosalie made a joke about me eating pickles at breakfast, and Regina's eyes had gone sharp with speculation, I'd made an excuse to find the nearest pharmacy. The test was positive. Unmistakably, terrifyingly positive. I stared at those two pink lines while my world tilted on its axis, pregnant with Roman Castellano's child. We'd consummated the marriage exactly once, 2 weeks ago, after a particularly intense training session where the adrenaline and proximity had combusted into something neither of us could control. It had been fierce and desperate and absolutely electric, and afterward we'd retreated to our separate rooms without discussing what it meant. Apparently, it meant I was now carrying the next generation of the Castellano family. I was still processing this when the second discovery crashed into the first. Someone had tampered with Regina's car. We'd been walking back to the vehicle when Marco, who'd accompanied us as always, suddenly grabbed Regina's arm and yanked her back. "Don't touch the door." He was on his phone immediately, barking orders in Italian. Within minutes, bomb squad professionals that Roman apparently kept on retainer were swarming the parking garage. They found it quickly, an explosive device wired to the ignition, sophisticated enough that it would have killed everyone in the car the moment Regina started the engine. "Inside," Marco ordered, herding us toward the boutique we'd just left. "Mr. Castellano is on his way." We huddled in the back office while the manager nervously offered us espresso, and the sound of sirens filled the air outside. I still had the pregnancy test wrapped in tissue in my purse, this secret growing heavier with each passing moment. Regina's face was pale, but composed. This is the third attempt in as many weeks. First the threatening messages, then the shots fired at the charity gala. Now this. Someone wants to send a very clear message. That you're vulnerable, Rosalie finished, her voice tight with anger. That Roman can't protect his own family. Not just vulnerable. Regina's eyes met mine. Dead. Someone wants us dead and they're getting bolder. The door burst open and Roman strode in, flanked by what looked like half his security force. His eyes found me immediately, scanning me from head to toe with barely controlled panic. "Are you hurt?" He was in front of me before I could answer, his hands framing my face, tilting it toward the light. "Were you near the car? Did you touch anything?" "I'm fine." Marco stopped us before. He pulled me against his chest, his arms wrapping around me with almost crushing force. I could feel his heart hammering, could feel the tremor running through his body that he was fighting to control. "If something had happened to you..." His voice broke. "Cristo, Rebecca, if I'd lost you, I'm okay." I pressed my face into his shirt, breathing in his familiar scent, cologne and coffee and something uniquely him. "We're all okay." He held me for a long moment, then released me to check on his mother and sister with the same frantic thoroughness. Only when he was satisfied that everyone was unharmed did the fear in his eyes transform into something colder. "Marco, report." "Sophisticated device, boss. Military grade. Whoever placed it knows what they're doing." Marco's expression was grim. This isn't some amateur trying to make a statement. This is a professional hit. "On my mother and wife." Roman's voice was deadly quiet. "In broad daylight, in a public parking garage." He turned to the men flanking him. "I want every second of security footage from this building and every building within a 3-block radius. I want to know everyone who entered this garage in the last 24 hours. and I want Dante Moretti brought to me. Now. Roman, we don't know it was Dante, Regina cautioned. Who else has the resources and the motive? He began pacing, that restless energy I'd learned to recognize as his barely contained violence. He tried to use Daniel to get to Rebecca. When that failed, he's escalating, trying to kill multiple family members at once, shake our confidence, make me look weak. Or it's not about weakness at all, Rosalie said quietly. What if it's about succession? We all turned to stare at her. She shrugged, though her eyes were frightened. Think about it. If Mama and Rebecca both die, who benefits? Who moves up in the hierarchy? The implication hung in the air like poison gas. Someone within the family. Someone close enough to know movements, routines, vulnerabilities. Roman's face went absolutely expressionless, which was somehow more terrifying than anger. Everyone in this room is above suspicion. My mother, my sister, my wife, Marco, who's been with us since I was a child. Everyone else. He pulled out his phone. We're going into lockdown. As of now, nobody enters or leaves family properties without my explicit authorization. All business meetings are canceled. All outside contacts are suspended. Roman, you can't just... Regina started. I can and I will. His eyes were black with fury. Someone tried to kill you today, Mama. You, Rosalie, and Rebecca, my entire female family in one strike. This isn't business anymore. This is war. The ride back to the mansion was silent and tense. Roman kept me tucked against his side, his arm around my shoulders, his other hand resting possessively on my thigh. Every few minutes his grip would tighten, as if reassuring himself that I was still there, still breathing, still alive. When we finally reached the safety of the mansion, he led me straight to his bedroom. Not mine, his, and locked the door behind us. You're staying here tonight, he said, leaving no room for argument. With me, where I can protect you. Roman, don't argue. He crossed to the hidden panel, opening his arsenal. Not about this, not today. I almost lost you, Rebecca. Do you understand that? If Marco had been 30 seconds slower, if you'd been closer to that car... He stopped, his back to me, his shoulders rigid. I moved toward him slowly, this dangerous man who was coming apart at the seams because I'd been in danger. My hand found his back, feeling the tension coiled there. I'm okay, I said softly. I'm right here. He turned abruptly, pulling me into his arms again. This time the embrace was different, not panic-driven, but desperate, hungry, claiming. His mouth found mine in a kiss that was more about reassurance than desire, though desire was definitely there too. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. I can't lose you. Whatever this started as, whatever arrangement we made, I can't... He stopped, seeming to struggle with words. You matter, Rebecca, more than you should, more than is safe. You matter to me too. The admission felt dangerous, like stepping off a cliff. I didn't expect that. But it's true. His hands framed my face, thumbs tracing my cheekbones. Then stay alive for me. Please. Whatever it takes, whatever you need to do, stay alive. I will. I swallowed hard, thinking of the pregnancy test still hidden in my purse. Roman, there's something I need to tell you. A sharp knock interrupted us. Boss, one of the guards. You need to see this, now. Roman's expression hardened, but he took my hand as we went to answer the door. The guard handed him a tablet showing security footage. I watched over his shoulder as Roman played it, his entire body going rigid. The footage showed someone entering the parking garage. Someone whose face was clearly visible as they approached Regina's car, looked around to ensure they were alone. then crouched beside the driver's side door for several minutes before walking away casually. Someone I recognized. Rosalie. No. The word came out as a whisper. That's impossible. She wouldn't. The timestamp is from this morning. Roman's voice was completely emotionless. 2 hours before you arrived at the boutique. She knew you were going shopping today. She suggested that boutique specifically. Roman, your sister loves you. She loves your mother. There has to be another explanation. There's always an explanation. He handed the tablet back to the guard. Find her. Bring her to me. And someone get my mother. She needs to see this. The next hour was the longest of my life. We waited in Roman's study while his men searched for Rosalie. Regina sat pale and silent, refusing to believe what the evidence showed. Roman stood at the window, staring out at nothing, his hands clenched into fists. When they finally brought Rosalie in, she was crying. Roman, please, let me explain. Explain what? His voice was ice. Explain why you tried to kill our mother? Explain why you tried to murder my wife? Explain why my own sister has been trying to destroy this family from the inside? I didn't have a choice. Rosalie's voice rose to a shriek. Dante has Marco Vitale, my Marco. They've been holding him for months, torturing him. They said they'd kill him unless I... She stopped, realizing what she'd admitted. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Marco Vitale, the youngest Don, the wild card. Rosalie had been dating his nephew, also named Marco, for over a year. It had seemed like a promising alliance between families. You sold us out to save your boyfriend, Roman said flatly. You've been feeding information to Dante and Vitale, probably for months. Every move we've made, every plan we've discussed, they've known because of you. He's the man I love. Rosalie's tears were desperate now. What would you have done if someone took Rebecca? Would you just let her die? Roman's jaw clenched. I would burn the city down to save her. But I wouldn't betray my family to do it. I'd find another way. There is no other way. You don't understand. I understand betrayal. He turned to his men. Take her to the holding room. She stays there until I decide what to do with her. Roman, please. Rosalie struggled as they grabbed her arms. I'm your sister. You can't... You stopped being my sister the moment you put a bomb in our mother's car. His voice was absolute zero. Get her out of my sight. After they dragged her away, Regina stood slowly. She'd aged 10 years in the last hour, her face lined with grief. What will you do with her? I don't know. For the first time since I'd met him, Roman looked lost. She's my sister. But she tried to kill you. To kill Rebecca. That's unforgivable. She was trying to save someone she loves, I heard myself say. Both of them turned to stare at me. I'm not saying what she did was right, but I understand the impulse. We've all made terrible choices for the people we love. Roman's eyes softened fractionally. You're too forgiving. Maybe. I moved closer, taking his hand. But right now, you need to focus on getting Marco Vitale back and dealing with Dante and Vitale properly. Rosalie is secured. She can't hurt anyone else. The immediate threat is neutralized. Rebecca's right. Regina straightened, pulling herself together with visible effort. This is war now. Not with some outside enemy, but with 2 of the 5 families. We need to be strategic. Roman squeezed my hand, and I felt that connection between us, that understanding that had been building since our wedding. We were partners now, truly. Not just in name, but in reality. Then we plan, he said. We plan, and we move, and we end this. Permanently. I thought of the pregnancy test in my purse, the secret I still hadn't shared. Tonight had proven how fragile life was in this world, how quickly everything could be taken away. Tomorrow I'd tell him. Tomorrow we'd figure out what it meant to bring a child into this dangerous, complicated family. But tonight, I just held his hand and prepared for war. I told him in the middle of the night. We were lying in his bed, our bed now, as I'd stopped pretending I wanted to sleep alone, his arm around me, my head on his chest. The rhythm of his heartbeat had become my favorite sound, steady and sure, proof that he was alive and safe. "Roman?" My voice was small in the darkness. His hand traced lazy patterns on my shoulder. "I'm pregnant." His hand stilled. For a long moment, there was only silence and the distant sound of rain against the windows. Then he shifted, sitting up and pulling me with him, turning on the bedside lamp so he could see my face. "Say that again." "I'm pregnant." I watched his expression, trying to gauge his reaction. About 3 weeks along, I found out the day of the bombing. I've been trying to find the right time to tell you, but there hasn't been a right time because we've been in lockdown and planning war and... He kissed me, cutting off my rambling. It was soft and reverent, so different from his usual intensity that tears pricked my eyes. "A baby," he breathed against my lips. "Our baby. You're sure?" I took 3 tests. They were all positive. I placed his hand on my still flat stomach. "I know the timing is terrible. With everything happening, the danger, Rosalie's betrayal, the timing is perfect." His voice was fierce. "Do you understand what you've just given me? Hope, a future, something worth protecting beyond power and territory and revenge." His other hand came up to frame my face. "You're carrying my child, Rebecca. You're giving the Castellano family its next generation. There's no greater gift. I was afraid you'd be angry, that it would complicate things. It changes everything." He pulled me into his arms, holding me with exquisite gentleness. "But not in the ways you fear. This baby makes you even more precious, more essential. Which means I need to end this war immediately. Our child won't be born into this chaos." "What are you planning?" His smile was cold and sharp. "To give Dante Moretti and Marco Vitale exactly what they deserve. But I need your help to do it." What Roman proposed was insane, dangerous, and possibly brilliant. The plan hinged on using Rosalie's betrayal as an asset. We'd feed false information through her, making Dante and Vitale believe they'd won, that the Castellano family was fracturing. Then, when they moved to consolidate power, we'd strike. "You want to use your sister as bait," I said, processing the strategy. "After she tried to kill us. I want to save her boyfriend and give her a chance at redemption." Roman's expression was unreadable. What she did was unforgivable. But she's still family, and family gets one chance to make things right. The meeting was held 3 days later in neutral territory, an abandoned warehouse that Dante had suggested, thinking he had the advantage. What he didn't know was that Roman had owned that warehouse for 6 months, had surveillance and tactical advantages Dante couldn't imagine. I stood beside Roman as the families gathered, my hand resting on my still flat stomach in an unconsciously protective gesture. Regina was on his other side, regal despite the danger. Marco, our Marco, stood behind us with a dozen armed men. Dante Moretti entered with Marco Vitale, both of them flanked by their own security. Between them, beaten but alive, was Rosalie's boyfriend. Younger Marco, the pawn in this deadly game. "Castellano." Dante's voice dripped with false courtesy. "Thank you for accepting our terms." "I accepted nothing." Roman's voice could have frozen hell. "You demanded this meeting. I'm here to end it. Permanently." Bold words from a man whose own sister betrayed him. Marco Vitale smirked. "Tell me, does it hurt knowing your blood turned on you? Not as much as it's going to hurt when you realize you've already lost." Roman gestured, and lights flooded the warehouse from hidden positions. The exits that Dante and Vitale had thought were secure suddenly sealed, massive doors slamming down with finality. And from the shadows, more men emerged, not just Castellano soldiers, but Russo and De Luca men as well. The other two families, allied with Roman. Dante's face went white. What is this? This is what happens when you overplay your hand. Antonio Russo stepped forward, his expression disgusted. Did you really think the rest of us would allow you to destabilize the entire power structure? To start killing wives and mothers? The families have rules, Carlo De Luca added, his voice weak with illness but his authority intact. You broke them. You targeted civilians. You threatened the balance we've maintained for generations. This is a setup, Vitale snarled, reaching for his weapon. Don't. Roman's voice cracked like a whip. You're surrounded, outgunned, outmaneuvered. The only question now is whether you walk out of here alive or in body bags. I stepped forward then, surprising everyone, including Roman. My heart hammered, but my voice was steady. Release Marco Esposito. He's an innocent in your schemes. Then surrender yourselves to the council's judgment. Dante laughed bitterly. The school teacher speaks. Tell me, Mrs. Castellano, do you really think you have any authority here? She has my authority, Roman said quietly. Which means she has all the authority she needs. Rebecca, step back. But I didn't. I'd been learning from Regina and Nonna Rosa over these weeks, understanding the power dynamics of this world. I'm carrying Roman Castellano's child, the next generation of this family. You tried to kill me 3 times. That makes this personal, not just political. Something shifted in the room. The other family members looked at me with new interest, new respect. A pregnant wife defending her family was something they understood, something that transcended business and power. Release Marco, I repeated. Surrender, or face the consequences of united families. There was a long, tense moment. Then Vitale shoved the younger Marco forward. He stumbled, falling to his knees, and 2 of our men rushed forward to secure him. We'll need guarantees, Dante said, his bravado crumbling. You'll get justice, Roman replied. Nothing more, nothing less. The council will decide your fate, but I promise you this. You'll never threaten my family again. What followed was swift and brutal. Dante and Vitale were taken into custody by representatives from all 5 families. Their operations were divided up, their territories redistributed. The balance of power was restored. And young Marco was reunited with Rosalie under guard, both of them crying and clutching each other like drowning people finding life preservers. Roman took my hand as we watched them. You were incredible in there. Terrifying and beautiful and absolutely perfect. I was terrified, I admitted. Fear and courage aren't opposites. They're partners. He pulled me close. You stood up to 2 dons while pregnant with my child. I've never been more proud or more in love. The words hung in the air between us. He'd said them so casually, like they were simple truth, rather than earth-shattering revelation. You love me? My voice cracked. Desperately. Completely. Probably since you first glared at me in that school conference room and told me I was a monster. His smile was soft. I know I forced you into this marriage. I know you had no choice. But Rebecca, I choose you. Every day. I choose you and our baby and this life we're building. Do you think you could ever choose me too? I looked at this dangerous, complicated man who'd saved my worthless brother, protected his traitorous sister, cooked pancakes on Sunday mornings, and taught me how to shoot, who'd held me through nightmares and kissed me like I was precious, and stood between me and danger without hesitation. I already have, I whispered. I choose you, Roman. I choose this family and this insane life. And you. Always you. He kissed me then, deep and claiming and full of promise. Around us, his men politely looked away, giving us this moment of privacy in the middle of a warehouse full of witnesses. When we finally pulled apart, Regina was watching with tears in her eyes. "Welcome home, daughter," she said simply. 2 weeks later, the Castellano family gathered for Sunday dinner. It had become tradition, all of us around that massive kitchen table, arguing and laughing and being family. Rosalie was there, chastened but forgiven, young Marco at her side. He'd been inducted into the family properly, which apparently involved some ritual I hadn't been privy to, but which left him with a black eye and a fierce loyalty to Roman. Regina presided over the meal like a queen, directing the flow of food and conversation with practiced ease. The table groaned with dishes, pasta, meat, vegetables, enough to feed an army. And at the head of the table, Roman held my hand above the tablecloth where everyone could see, his thumb stroking my knuckles in that absent gesture that had become his habit. Nonna Rosa had been unusually quiet through most of the meal, her sharp eyes watching everyone with that unsettling intensity. Finally, as dessert was being served, she stood with her wineglass raised. "A toast," she announced. We all raised our glasses. Mine was water, the baby couldn't have alcohol, and waited. "To Rebecca," Rosa declared, her voice carrying despite her age. "Finally, a daughter-in-law with balls. You stood up to Dons while pregnant. You chose to stay when you could have run. You fought for this crazy family even though we gave you every reason to hate us." She cackled. "Now give me my great-grandchild. I'm 93 years old. I don't have forever." Everyone laughed, the tension breaking. Roman's hand tightened on mine. "To Rebecca," the family echoed, drinking. I looked around the table at these people who'd become mine. Regina with her fierce maternal love, Rosalie with her romantic impulsiveness, young Marco with his grateful devotion, the guards and staff who'd welcome me without question, and Roman, my dangerous, devoted husband who'd given me everything I'd never known I needed. "To family," I said softly, placing my free hand on my stomach. "To belonging. To love," Roman added, his dark eyes holding mine. "The most dangerous thing of all." Nonna Rosa snorted. "Love isn't dangerous. Love is what makes everything else worthwhile. Now eat your tiramisu before I give your portion to someone who appreciates my cooking." The moment dissolved into laughter and bickering and the comfortable chaos of family. I leaned into Roman's shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart, feeling our child growing inside me, feeling the absolute certainty of belonging. I'd been forced to marry the Mafia Boss expecting hell. Instead, I'd found home, and I'd found love. Absolute, terrifying, perfect love. Nonna Rosa was right. It made everything else worthwhile.